Hey guys, Jeff Holman here with Intellectual Strategies. Doing one more video to catch up today, maybe a couple more. We'll see what I've got time for. It's the end of my work day, and I've completed some other things, so hopefully I can get a couple more of these makeup videos done. I'm really excited to get through these so that I can present some of the new information to you that I've been doing since. Anyway, what I want to talk to you today about is doing surveys. I mentioned to you that one of my advisors, Mike, has suggested a couple times actually up until this point that I should be doing surveys. And I completely agree with him. There's kind of that balance between, when do you survey your customers about your product relative to when you have drawings or a prototype or whatever it might be, right? And so you kind of, I don't know, if you're like me, you want to try to give them as much information as you can while still protecting your intellectual property, while getting the best information from them, and try not to let your own ego or your own fear of rejection get in the way. So it's trying to balance all these things at once. Kind of feels a little bit chaotic, perhaps. Well, I think you have to just throw that aside, right? I certainly did. And what I did is, because this gear bag, or this duffel bag that I'm creating, is directed at me as a runner, right? I run. I have a problem with finding my gear sometimes because I put it in different places in my house, or I leave it in a vehicle, or whatever it might be. And when I go, at 5:30 in the morning and it's dark outside, and I want to go find my headlamp so that I can go run outside, or my vest, or my gloves, or or whatever it might be, that's a really bad time to be looking around in the dark for your equipment. So this bag helps to solve that problem. So I know that I believe, part of the consumer group that would buy this type of bag. And so what I did, because I'm in this group, I reached out and I figured I've got two places where I can go immediately to get help with survey results. One of them is a group of runners on an email thread. There's a guy named Steve, and he basically has this group and emails it out and says, if you want to come running, come running. Of course, this is a lot more effective when we're not in COVID period, quarantining. But talked about going running, and with a group, and whoever showed up by a certain time could go running with them in the morning. And they do that basically every morning in the summer. And then either there's a group that runs during the winter, or you can go backcountry skiing with some other people in the winter. And so I thought, okay, I have access to that group as long as Steve doesn't mind if I just use his email list and send out my request to participate in a survey to his list of email participants. And so that's one group I've got. The other group I've got is I'm a member of some Facebook groups, and one of them is actually, two of them are kind of local here to Utah. One of them overlaps significantly with the email list that I mentioned earlier. The other one is a broader group, but it's still mostly focused here in northern Utah. And then there's another group it's actually the group that I showed you in a different video, where I had asked my question about bags 3.5 years ago. That group has over 100,000 members to it all around the world. And I thought it'd be interesting to get survey results from the very local small group of people that I have access to via email. I've gone running with many of them, and then go to Facebook and do a broader audience. So that's what I did. And I'm going to show you the questionnaire that I put together and the responses that I got. Now, I will say, you have to be careful, right? When you go to your friends, there's always the fear that somebody's going to say, well, he's my friend, I want to give him good feedback. And that's not what you want. You want honest feedback. You want clarity. You want people to say for real what they would or would not buy. The other thing is, at this point, I didn't have any prototypes. I had some really rough drawings, at least I think they're rough, that I used as part of my provisional patent application. I don't think they really conveyed my idea very well. And so I was hesitant to go out and say, hey, would you guys buy this? And people, I think a lot of people would actually come back and say, well, I'm not sure what it is that you're illustrating, right? It's like the time that I tried to learn swimming, and I'm pretty sure that everyone on the side of the pool was yelling at me, Jeff, just stand up. You can touch the bottom. It's not that bad. They probably couldn't tell that I was trying to swim as opposed to just trying to not drown. But that's a different story. So what I've done is I've staged my surveys. I've done 2 surveys so far. And again, the first one I did in the early October, the second one I did in November, and then I'm getting ready to do my 3rd and probably final survey for now, here right after Christmas time. And so this first one doesn't talk about would you buy the product, because they're not actually seeing the product. This first one is more about what is the problem that you experience, if any, with storing your gear. So with that said, let me get into the survey here, and maybe I'll do a second video to show you the results of the survey. So first of all, I want to segment my list. I think that runners and cyclists are kind of my 2 primary market segments. This could be applicable to lots of others, but what I want to focus on for now and validate as a potential market, and in this case, validate whether or not there's an actual problem that people experience, is with runners and with cyclists. And I could narrow that down to, long distance runners, ultra runners, people who run 50 or 100 miles in races. I could segment that into road runners and trail runners. I could segment that into road cyclists and mountain bikers. I didn't do that because I don't think it really matters as much for this. I don't think that those segments really will have much of a preference. At least I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think there'll be a stronger preference for any of those segments of the overall runner cyclist categories. But I do want to know if people are runners or cyclists, because I know that they do both often. Then I want to know, how do you currently store your gear, right? If people are already using duffel bags, that could be a good or a bad thing. They're familiar with duffel bags, but maybe they've already got duffel bags. They don't need more duffel bags. So I asked some questions. How do you store your gear currently? Boxes and crates, lockers or closets, duffel, a large bag or a duffel, backpacks. And these are some of the things that I've done, some that I've heard about. And so I thought I'd just get a sampling of what people do. How happy are you with your current gear storage solution at home? And this one there wasn't a slider in Google Forms, and that's all I used to create this was Google Forms. So unhappy or very happy. I wanted to give people a choice as to how happy they might be with their current solution, boxes, lockers, bags, whatever that might be. When you travel, and this is a good point, how do you currently store your gear? How happy are you with your gear storage solution at home? Because I recognize that the way that I store stuff at home might be different from the way that I pack it when I travel. And so I wanted to distinguish between those 2 things, and I'm really glad I did. I'll show you that when I get to the results. When you travel and you plan a run or cycle, what do you use to store and organize your gear? Same things as above when you're at home, or are they different things? And how happy are you with your current gear solution for travel? Okay, what is the best feature about any duffels or bags that you've used for gear storage? What's the most difficult thing about storing your gear in duffels or bags? And these questions are specific to duffels. People who store in crates or boxes or drawers, this doesn't really apply to them directly. What would you like to be included in would you like to be included in another survey on this once the prototype's ready? Yes. And I asked them to put their email here if they are, and if they're not, then that's okay. And that's it. I just want to know, what do you think about the problem, the way that I've tried to segment it? I want to see if that resonates with people. And I will show you the results here in the next video, because I don't want to go too long here. But that's how I set up my first problem survey. Again, we'll go into more detail later in a different video about another survey on this solution. But for me, I think it's okay to do a problem survey and see if I'm actually tackling the right problem. I get that from a training or whatever I did with a friend of mine, Ryan. He's gone on and got his PhD in strategy since, but he was teaching some classes at one point and invited me to attend about lean startup methods. And part of that is, according to Ryan, is you want to find a shark bite problem, right? A problem that lots and lots of people have that's a major issue. Whether they know it or not, whether they know how to explain it or not is less of an issue. But do they have a shark bite problem? Not a mosquito bite problem, not, not some other problem, but something that's really big, so that you're spending your time on the biggest impact problem that you can, because then you're more likely to find a solution that people will adopt and pay for. So that's the survey. Join me for the next video, and I'll show you the results of this survey and how I segmented it out and sent it out to those two different groups of people, the email list and the Facebook group. That's it for now. Thanks, guys. Take care.